Hello and welcome. For those of you who do not know me, I'm a mom with ADHD, parent of teens, mental health pediatrician, life ADHD, executive function, and parent coach. Today's talk is not going to focus on fixing kids. It's about understanding how their brain is wired. The goal is to normalize that if mornings, homework, transitions, or emotions feel harder than expected, there just may be a good reason for it. So let's jump in. What is executive function? For some, this is a new combination of words, and for many, it's simply a difficult concept to understand. It is complicated. And something that helped me understand is to consider executive function as the captain. The crew does the work, but the captain directs, plans, and adjusts. When the captain is tired, overwhelmed, or underdeveloped, the ship still moves, just not smoothly. Love that picture. The executive function skills don't just appear because a child is old enough, they're tied to brain development. All of these skills live in that prefrontal cortex, and you can see it right there. Consider this the brain's control center. It's responsible for planning, remembering, organizing, managing emotions, starting tasks, and following through. And here's the part that most parents were never told. This part of the brain is the last area to fully develop. And it continues wiring itself all the way through childhood, the teen years, and even into the mid-20s. So it's the last part during gestation while they're still in our womb. That's the last part to develop. But then, when ADHD is in the picture, that development doesn't just happen later, it often happens differently. Executive function skills can lag years behind peers, not because the child is incapable or unmotivated, but because their brain is still building the neural pathways. So, what shapes how these skills come online or offline? So, the things like brain wiring, the genetics, and neurodiversity definitely play a big role. The environment, kids absorb what's modeled and what's structured around them. Stress. When the nervous system is overwhelmed, those skills go offline temporarily. We're going to definitely get into that. And then practice. The routines, repetition, support all strengthen executive function over time. And when we understand that this is developmental, not defiance, it completely changes the way how we can support our kids. Executive function is not just about doing well in school. It's about succeeding in life. And that's my main focus. I want to see what's 20 years from now. How are we doing things, right? So strong executive function skills support academic achievement, but they also help children develop appropriately, form positive relationships, and eventually manage their daily lives with confidence and our goal, independence. In fact, studies show that executive function skills are a better predictor of success than IQ or standardized test scores. If we focus on building these foundational skills, we're giving the kids the tools to thrive, not just survive. So why does this even matter? Why does this matter at home? If you've ever thought, this shouldn't be this hard, it's likely not your parenting, it's skill gap underneath. Now we can all work, and I'll be the first to say that we can all work on our parenting skills, but kids are expected to manage time, organize, remember, self-start, and stay regulated long before their brain is fully ready and capable. School, sports, and even home routines assume skills that are still developing. Daily tasks depend on executive function. Everything from mornings and homework to chores, friendships, and bedtime routines rely on these skills. If those skills are weak, everyday life feels harder than it should. Even when a child can use a skill, stress, fatigue, transitions, or emotions can take it offline again in seconds. And that's when we see those shutdowns, meltdowns, avoidance, when we really want to get away from them, huh? Conflict will only grow without support. And what looks like defiance, laziness, or disrespect often leads to nagging, power struggles, or shame on both sides, when it's really just an executive function gap. Once we just totally accept that it is a brain-based skill set, the tone's going to shift from won't to can't yet and needs support. And that's going to open the door so that we can come from solutions instead of stress. And I definitely want to emphasize and normalize that executive function as a skill set, and it's not a character flaw. When a child procrastinates, forgets, melts down, or avoids, it's easy to label it as lazy, unmotivated, or oppositional. But executive function struggles are about brain development, not personality. When we shift from won't to can't yet, our responses become more effective and less emotional. A lot of parents worry that reminders, checklists, routines will make their child dependent, but it's actually the opposite. But when we meet them and start scaffolding, we don't want to do it and just continue to with us managing or micromanaging their schedules, right? So the temporary scaffolding is going to build that long-term independence. Or when can you show me when I can step back? Or when do you think you're ready for me to stop nagging? Especially for those kids that, roll their eyes, or what I like to say, have the temporary seizure looking up. So kids don't learn to manage tasks by being thrown into them. They learn by practicing inside a structured environment. Completion isn't the only indicator of success. If your child starts with support or tries again after you prompt or finishes in chunked up steps, that's executive function in action. When we celebrate effort and follow through instead of just outcomes, kids build confidence and stamina. This happens for us adults as well. The goal? Collaboration over correction. Correcting a child in the moment, especially when they're overwhelmed, often backfires. Partnering with them instead of policing them lowers defensiveness and builds skills faster. Ideally, it's going to sound like, how can we make this easier to remember? Instead of, we've talked about this 100 times. So once we shift how we see behavior, we can better spot where that struggle is happening. Is it starting? Is it focusing? Is it sustaining the focus? Is it finishing? Is it managing emotions? And that's where the compass comes in. I created the anchored compass to organize executive function skills into 4 directions. To begin any journey, it helps to know your destination. And as the saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, any path will take you there. So this is not to label ourselves or to label our kids, but it helps us understand where support is needed. Briefly, the 4 directions is initiating action, navigating focus, following through, and adapting under pressure. So let's jump right in. When we talk about the north on the compass, we're talking about the skills that help kids get started, plan ahead, and organizing what is needed. For example, my child knows what's needed to be done, but delays starting until I prompt or I have to stay by them. So this area consists of task initiation, getting started on tasks without delay, planning and prioritizing, deciding what's important, and mapping out steps. Organization, not only creating them or getting it clean, but maintaining the systems. To the east, or navigating focus, is about managing attention, remembering information, and pausing before reacting. For example, I'll give directions, and 30 seconds later, they're doing something completely different. Has that ever happened to you? And the core skills here are response inhibition, the ability to pause before reacting, sustained attention, staying focused until a task is complete, and working memory, ability to hold information to use it later. South is the follow-through zone, the ability to use time, stick with the task, and learn from experience. For example, my child starts homework or chores but rarely finishes, or finishes it and then forgets to turn it in. The core skills are time management. This is the ability to use time effectively. Many of us with ADHD have 2 time zones, now and not now. Right? So sometimes we have to have some awareness. If not, we have that time blindness. Goal-directed persistence. This is following through on long-term tasks. And metacognition, the ability to step back, think, and adjust. And this is one of the ones that is developed at the very end. So it's no wonder that they may not have that reflective time, and we need to keep help planting those seeds. The West, or adapting under pressure. This is handling emotions, shifting when plans change, and staying steady under stress. For example, a small change like a missing paper or a change in plans can trigger a full meltdown or shutdown. And the core skills here are emotional control, the ability to manage emotional reactions or emotional responses is what I prefer. Flexibility, the ability to shift plans or strategies when things change. And then stress tolerance, the ability to function under pressure. So, what makes things so difficult? Of course, your kiddo may have ADHD or other explanations for executive function challenges. However, a common denominator in life is stress. So, this is from a slide from Sanity School for Parents, and it's from a training I can offer, and also it's from impactparents.com. But the main thing I want you to see here is you can see where the cerebral cortex, the green part, right? So that's there. And then we have this blue area, which is the frontal lobe, or where the main part of the executive function skills lie in this prefrontal area. And then this little area over here, this is what's called the limbic system. But just think about it as the primitive brain, survival brain, right? So if you see my hand, and so here's the smart, here's the executive function frontal lobe, and here is your limbic system. So now when stress builds, the brain changes, and it's as if the smarts and the skills section go offline and the emotional brain takes over. And that's what we call the lid flip. So again, when kids feel overwhelmed, their executive skills go offline. And that's when it's a simple reminder, it's going to turn into tears, shutdowns, or arguments. And we can call it defiance, but why not try dysregulation? When executive function drifts, kids don't just get worse, they get overwhelmed. We will see to the north, right? They leave everything until the last minute. They're scattered, they're losing things. Or to the east, you give directions, they've forgotten it immediately. They're distracted and can't hold back from impulses. South, start chores, never finishes, never learns. To the west, one refusal, full shutdown. So this is where the anchoring back model is going to come in. So just as the anchor can drift, it can also be reset. So instead of punishing that drift, we can anchor and offer support. In the north, anchoring back might mean starting one tiny step or using a 5-minute timer just to get the momentum started. So don't worry about finishing all of your homework. Just let's put a 5-minute timer. Let's just see. Let's see what happens. And sometimes that's all you need. In the east, a pause and a breath can reset focus. And of course, we can silence notifications. We can put our phone face down. Any of those things can help decrease the distractions. In the south, blocking time and breaking big goals into smaller pieces will help us follow through. Sometimes seeing the incentive or the reward is so small and the task is so large, but if we chunk it up, we might just be able to see what our prize is on the other side. In the West, we can ground ourselves with breathing or reframe a challenge to see it as manageable. Anchoring back is not about perfection. It's about small intentional shifts that steady us again. And so how do we do this? How do we strengthen these skills? So these ABCs came from Peg Dawson and Richard Gary's work, and I'm getting and have gotten extra training on the smart but scattered ways. And they're just awesome. There's so much to learn from them. But the biggest thing is that they remind us that we don't always need more willpower. Sometimes it's about making the environment easier, practicing one small skill, or adding motivation. We all need it. And I want each of you to keep in mind, support is not enabling. It creates independence. If the environment is working against the brain, no amount of reminding is going to fix it. Instead of saying, why didn't you remember? We can try, hey, what do you think might help? Or let's put a visual checklist by the door instead of that nagging verbal reminder. A launch pad helps many people, definitely helps me, to have things by the door on the way out. And that could be the backpack, water bottle, shoes, or important things that you may need to take with you. Cues are so helpful, right? Especially with ADHD, but a lot of it's not that we are clueless, we are cueless. So the flags, timers, alarms, all of those can help cue transitions. A clear workspace instead of a noisy or cluttered area can be very helpful as well. So changing the environment reduces the demand on the brain. It's not enabling, it's scaffolding. So how can we figure out what is the best environment for your child? Kids don't magically learn executive function skills. They're going to build them like a muscle, but we need the tools. We need to show them how those exercises work. Instead of just focus or just get started, we can choose to teach a skill. Again, that 5-minute start rule. Let's just do it for 5 minutes and see what happens. Modeling, if we can plan out loud. So first I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that. And also practicing transitions, right? For example, when the timer goes off, we're going to shift. Ready? 3, 2, 1. What's next? And sometimes parents can simply sit with the child and do the first step with them. And then once they get started, they can keep going. So sometimes it's not that they need us to teach them something, it's just help them get started. Rewards don't spoil kids, especially when used in the right way. They jumpstart skills that aren't wired yet. So some good examples for this is body doubling, working near a parent or on Zoom or just in the same area with other people, pairing a boring task with a preferred one, earning time, choices, or privileges for completion. Check-ins can really be helpful with a parent, with a coach, teacher, sibling. Presence is definitely a strategy, and it's not a crutch. When executive functioning is overwhelming, the goal isn't to overhaul everything. It's to pick one place to start. That might be morning, homework, emotions, organization, or transitions. Once you know the area, you choose one small shift, not a total makeover. It can be really overwhelming. It's easy for us to come and we know everything is wrong and we want to fix it all. But we all need some success, and success breeds success. So let's start with one little step. And then you can look for signs of progress, right? That might be less resistance, quicker starting, fewer reminders, or less stress for everybody. When the change connects to something that matters, like family peace, confidence, fewer meltdowns, kids and parents are going to be engaging more. And the last piece, we have to be realistic. If evenings are chaotic or your child is exhausted after school, or one teenager told me that their emotional battery or social battery is just on red, right? So we have to give them the time and let's plan around it instead of fighting it. That's how real change happens. One small supported shift at a time. And I have this here, the ADHD iceberg. I know not everyone has ADHD, and it is a term that's used broadly, but I want you to just see this. This is from understood.org. These are the easy things for us to see when it's inattention or impulsivity or hyperactivity. But check out all the stuff that's below, right? There can be so much executive function, causing things for it to go offline, the anxiety, sleep comes in, all the sensory issues, all these things can interrupt and make it more difficult. What are the next steps? Awareness is not about judgment. It's about direction. Once you see where the drift is, now you know where to anchor, where to go and jump in on. As you reflect on what we covered today, here are a few next steps to help you stay anchored. I'm going to invite you to fill out the executive function snapshot quiz that I'm going to share on the next slide. And then await for the email with the results. And you can schedule a debrief if you have further questions. Stay connected. There's going to be future workshops and resources available, and I'd love to share them with you. Subscribe to the newsletter, and if you haven't, also subscribe on the socials. And finally, if you'd like to go deeper, coaching is available. Whether for yourself or your family, it's a way to get personalized support and tools so that we can strengthen these tools. So if you feel like you're nagging more than guiding, or your child shuts down before they even start, that's exactly when executive function coaching might help. A lot about what we talked about today comes even clearer when you look at your own child through the compass. So I created this snapshot so you can take, and in just a few minutes, you're going to be able to see it. So complete the quiz, and you may need to check in your spam or promotions folder, but you can see the email. Now, if you want to take it on more than one child, then I encourage you to wait until you get the results for one before doing the other. And of course, if you have any questions, reflections, any insights, reach out to me. Let me know what's helping. What did you like from this? What did you learn? And for many parents, you could totally turn the compass on yourself and do this, and you'll get that for yourself. And of course, let me know if there's any questions. And thank you so much for being here today.